today, our lovely internet micro celebrities, if you will, and they are the following. I actually don't know how to pronounce your Discord name as it is right now, but people probably know you more by Ziana, notable for crushing Destiny in a debate. We also have Brick, who's been my lovely co-host. We also have Dingo, and Econoboy, and Stardust, and Rage Pope, and TJump, and Urk. Thank you all for judging for us today. And without further ado, so I don't waste more of their time, let's get into this one as fast as we can. As always, we're going to start with our opening statements, and then we'll have our vote at the end of all of this, plus an audience vote. So we'll start with the pro side, which is Stink. And Stink, when you're ready, you have 4 minutes on the clock.
Hey Duke, I'm Con.
Oh god, that scared the crap out of me.
Frank. Thick Boy, Pro.
Where's the cameras? Where's the cameras?
You can start.
Yes. Do you want me to start?
Yep.
Oh, right. So the first argument is that free college increases access to college education. College is really important. As we head into the 21st century, continued innovation and economic growth require a well-educated, highly adaptable, and trainable workforce. It is important that this not be gatekept by someone's ability to pay for education at the point of service. The high upfront cost of a college education warps decision-making and keeps otherwise capable individuals from pursuing a degree. Economist Jeffrey Denning found in 2017 that for every $1,000 decrease in the price of community college, enrollment went up by about 5%, and successful transfers to four-year programs also increased. This is just a snapshot of the big picture, though, because a 2022 study by Berland and Dynarski in the American Economic Review randomly assigned low-income students to one of three groups: a full guarantee of 4 years of free education, an annual means-tested aid program, and a control group for the University of Michigan. They found that even when total amount of aid given was the same, the certainty of the free tuition had a profound impact. The upfront commitment of free tuition increased enrollment by 50%, whereas the means-tested program had almost no significant effect compared to the control. It is clear that the value of zero is nonlinear, and consumers value free items over and above their reduced cost. By easing the financial burden and eliminating uncertainty, we also let students focus more on their studies and better plan for the future. Tennessee's free college program had a 53% graduation rate compared to only a 39% graduation rate for their non-program peers. And after 2 years of free college tuition, Rhode Island's College Promise program saw its community college graduation rate triple and their graduation rate among students of color increase ninefold. More college graduates is good for everybody. The Upjohn Institute for Employment Research finds that the economic and social benefits of free tuition more than pay for themselves. For every $1 in extra wages a college grad earns, other residents receive 86 cents in spillover benefits. They estimate the economic benefit of providing free tuition over 10 years would be 11 to 18 times the cost of the program. This economic boost has social consequences in surprising ways, as Alma Gonzalez found that a 5% decrease in college graduation, or 5% increase in college graduation, decreases the homicide rate by 18.7%. How about that? The second argument is that free college increases the quality of education. Two ways that this happens. The first is reducing grade inflation. The Brookings Institute established the link between rising tuition and rising GPAs almost 30 years ago. As colleges seek to compete and attract students, they are incentivized to reduce academic rigor and keep students enrolled and paying. This trend has remained true. Full-time students allocated 40 hours per week towards class and study in 1961, whereas by 2003, that had fallen to 27 hours per week, and today it's around 19 hours per week. This does a disservice to both the students and the entire nation, because as Caroline Ortega found in 2018, when Columbia University reduced coursework by 20%, wages for graduates fell by approximately 16%. The second is better sorting. The high price of college distorts decision-making and prevents students from being matched with optimal academic merit programs. Instead of merit, sorting is based on income and ability to withstand uncertainty. It is estimated that 40% of students were undermatched to their university compared to their academic skill, most often for financial reasons. The American Educational Research Foundation found that when tuition was waived for high achievers, low-income students were 24% more likely to be better matched. This is important because they also find that students who are undermatched, who go to institutions that aren't congruent to their academic capabilities, are 80% less likely to graduate. Free college changes the paradigm and makes education about meritocracy, not money.
All right. Thank you for your opening statement on the pro. We'll now move over to Stink on the con. When you're ready, you can start.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. So I'll just go ahead and get started. So the idea of free college is incredibly appealing when first considered. Proponents point to benefits like alleviation of generational poverty, a more educated, more taxable workforce, and the humanistic benefits that come from exposure to subjects like history and fine arts. Unfortunately, these concepts are flawed in both concept and execution. Currently enacted programs fail to meet their goals of providing a step up for those in the lowest rung of society, and more progressive debt-free solutions fail to address the drop in quality that increased demand would result in. In addition, a conversation needs to be had about the current systemic inefficiencies of our higher education system and to what extent we should fund those inefficiencies. When we look at programs that have already been enacted, it's funny, Thick Boy mentioned the Tennessee program. That's a last dollar scholarship fund for a number of two-year programs in the state. Last dollar is final funding after federal grants and scholarships. So to highlight the problem, let's examine two students attending a community college that costs $6,500 per semester. Student 1 is within the lowest 10% income bracket and receives $6,000 in Pell Grants from the federal government. The Tennessee program then pays the remaining $500. Student 2 is in the upper 90% income bracket and receives no federal assistance. They are given $6,500 in funding. This is a system that disproportionately rewards students who can already afford college. What I just described only addresses tuition, which makes up on average less than 1/2 of the cost of college. So only addressing tuition, even in smarter first dollar systems, still favors the wealthier students. Assuming we do provide funding for non-tuition
He's not addressing whether college should be free. He's just wasting time.
as the number of degree holders increases, the value of the degree will also decrease. On average, employers are not struggling to hire degree holders. In fact, the opposite is true. The underemployment rate is the number of college degree holders working in jobs that don't require a degree. For bachelor's holders, one year out of college, this number is 52%. After 10 years, this only drops to 45%. I can't see a reason this rate should get better with more degree holders. In fact, it will likely get worse. This brings me to my final reason why college... Sorry.
This is a debate on whether college should be free or not. I'm supposed to judge.
I'd wager the default position of most people is that college is a system to develop skills and traits required by future employers. This position is known as the human capital model. The signaling model instead proposes that the majority of gains from a degree are instead from the signals it sends to potential employers. Popularized more recently by Brian Kaplan, many of whose arguments I'm borrowing for this debate, signaling states that college can act like a sorting mechanism for traits that make for a good employee. Traits like intelligence, conscientiousness, and conformity are highly indicative of a good employee and are usually required to attain a college degree, and therefore the degree tells the employer you possess those traits. Signaling also explains issues like the sheepskin effect that the human capital model struggles with. The sheepskin effect being the final year of degree attainment offers much larger wage premiums than that of the initial years. The more accurate the signaling model is, the more inconvenient it is for the free college advocate, as we are not funding increases in worker productivity, but instead increases in the ability for the worker to signal the traits they already possessed. This obviously varies by field of study, but Kaplan's estimates find that each additional year of education tends to favor personal wage premiums rather than national income increases. This, of course, indicates that increased investment in college is not a national productivity builder, and we should question the level of investment we put into it. I should clarify that I am not against higher education. I do believe that it can offer a road to a better life, even if that is through signaling alone. Removing the financial barriers for students that truly need it is something I support, but that is not achieved by making college free. Instead, I would propose an increase in the funds granted by the Pell Grant, reform the EFC system within the FAFSA, and increase awareness of funding that currently exists for students that may struggle financially. And I will cede the rest of my time.
All right. And then move into our 3-minute questioning period. If we don't use all of it, we'll kick it into the open debate. 3 minutes starts now.
So at the end of your speech, you talk about like what your alternative would be. If none of that happens, would you still say that that's better than free college?
If none of that happens, the market will then be more inclined to pick the winners and losers of that system. So all of those inefficiencies I talked about, which are currently being bolstered in a lot of ways by government subsidies, will then work themselves out in different ways, right? So the value we get from college will increase because of that. So yeah, I would
These
favor it as a
problems are
free
getting
college.
worse in the status quo. Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah. I guess like what is the model you're proposing for paying for free college? Is it like a
Um,
last dollar, first dollar, debt free?
You wouldn't want me to like propose like a really specific model, like where I like have everything planned out. Like that would be like very like abusive for me to like be very specific here. I'm mostly just saying the general principle that the uh uh cost, the point of entry cost does not give us very much utility. That is actually bad. It creates a lot of inefficiencies. It prevents people from going to college, and it prevents people who do go to college from going to the right college. And that a system in which either tuition's free or any other ways to make the price of college less goes away is a better system.
Okay.
Can you explain So can you explain the Tennessee point? I was just confused about how you say that increased inequality.
Yeah, so it's not that it's like increasing inequality necessarily, but it's rewarding people who don't necessarily need that reward in the first place. So because it's a last dollar program, it's coming in after all the other means tested grants are awarded, which means that, like I said, the person who's already getting $6,000 because of their low income status only gets $500, whereas the person who doesn't need any means testing grants in the first place is getting their full tuition paid for, the full $6,500, which to me that screams inefficiency.
Would you say that that's a free college program?
It's free tuition, yeah.
Okay. Do you have a question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, that's probably it for me.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's now move into.
You dropped the ball on that one. That was a good question. Like, is this a free college program? The answer is no. This is maybe free college for some people, selectively. And so the fact that it's free college for some people doesn't actually represent the actual topic of the debate is, should college be free? Not should college be free for some select individuals? Like, even those select individuals would benefit from it.
Is brought to you by OnlyFans. OnlyFans. Is college tuition too much to handle? Ready to ditch the weekly ramen? Live your best life as the true, beautiful, self-made you on OnlyFans, where you can make thousands of dollars every month. Think about it. Whether you're a master of selfies, a fabulous performer, or have a talent you know people would pay to see, OnlyFans is the stage where you can shine bright like a diamond and get paid for it. So why wait? Say hello to a future where your bank account isn't just surviving, it's thriving. Join the OnlyFans revolution today and start turning those likes into dollars. Because let's face it, your education shouldn't come with a side of crippling debt. OnlyFans, where making money is as easy as acing a pop quiz. All right, your prep time is up. Thick boy, 4 minutes on the clock. When you're ready, you can start.
The first argument that Stink makes is that this would just perpetuate the systemic inefficiencies in the college system. This is actually completely false. In fact, this is what the con argument is. The con argument would be that free college doesn't happen. We continue on the track we're on, where college increasingly gets expensive, and this tuition incentives actually creates these problems that are generating all the issues he's talking about and that I talk about in the bottom of my case. The issues of grade inflation, less academic rigor, and students going to the wrong college because they are choosing colleges based on price, not based on which one fits them best academically. The second is he talks about the Tennessee program. If I were to come up here and I only talked about the Tennessee program and I said we would need a national Tennessee program, that's not free college. That's a specific program, a last dollar program for community college. The only reason I brought it up is to demonstrate the relationship that when people's tuition goes down, their graduation rates go up. That's the important part, not the specifics of how the Tennessee program may feed into certain inequalities, because at the end of the day, I already explained the inequalities in the case that, low-income people, when the tuition is zero and they don't have to jump through all these financial hoops through means testing, when it is just free tuition and free college, they're actually 50% more likely to attend university. Whereas the means tested programs, it's basically no different than before. So right there, I'm not arguing we should have more means testing. I'm arguing college should be free. That when people make these decisions, seeing the price of college being $0 is actually really important. And it causes them to make decisions they wouldn't if it was just them going through uncertain aid benefits and scholarships and et cetera, et cetera. Then he talks about how this just benefits the rich. I think the what you see is that, remember, for every $1 a college grad earns, the other people earn 89 cents extra. That more college graduates benefits societies in all sorts of reasons. Decreases the murder rate. They open up more businesses. They're better able to hire people who don't have college degrees, and we make it easier for people who don't have college degrees to get a degree because the actual price of tuition is less. Secondly, if you're worried about tuition, most people would agree paying for this system would be easy. You simply tax college graduates or tax the rich. That very much. College, I'm not arguing we should abandon thermodynamics here. Obviously, college must be paid some way or another. But paying after through taxes on people who have already achieved education is more efficient than charging people a fee to enter and giving them uncertainty about what kind of benefits and tuition they could be expected to pay. That's not a decision that poor, high-achieving students are able to make. On the issue of signaling, this is the Brian Kaplan argument. I don't think this is a good argument. For one, I already showed the study from 2018 that when Columbia reduced coursework by 20%, they decreased the wages of their graduates by 16%. That's not signaling. The employers had no idea. The degrees became less valuable because there was less academic work in it. Furthermore, farmers who are educated are more likely to adopt new technologies, whether or not they adopt degrees, that there is a learning to learn in college that is very important that Brian Kaplan completely misses out in his book. Then he talks about the financial barriers that still exist. All these financial barriers become less imposing once the tuition cost is decreased. And if there are still financial barriers, that's still a reason to vote pro. You still agree that the problem is college isn't free. If college was more free at the point of service, we would get better results. And that's what we saw with the University of Michigan program for selective public institutions. That's what we see with community college, which increased graduation rates. And that's what we see in the study about improving the quality of college, that students actually go to colleges when it's free that fit their abilities better, which means they're less likely to drop out, more likely to graduate. And if signaling is the issue, well, we're increasing the graduation rate. So at that point, it doesn't matter. Better signaling means we have more college degree holders. 4 out of the 5 highest growing industries require college degrees in America.
One of the biggest weaknesses here is that neither one has brought up that there are actually countries that exist that have full free college. Like, if there's a country that has full free college, we can just look at the data and say, "Well, did this have the negative consequence that the con side is advocating for, or does it have the positive consequence that the pro side is advocating for?" The fact that neither of them are actually bringing up the fact that there is actually countries that have free college, it's kind of a weakness on both sides. You think 4 years should be free? Probably, yes. I think 4-year college should probably be free because we have actual countries with free college, and we can see the benefits of having free college that help impact the society and education in that country. And so, yeah, we should have it because countries have done it and it works. He's adding right now. Just reading another ad for PragerU. That's why I haven't unmuted him yet.
And your prep time is up. 4 minutes on the clock. When you're ready, you can start.
Yeah, I'll just
Free for the student.
trading inefficiencies, and somehow in the free college system, people will likely choose things not based on price, but instead based on that. The problem that the fact that you didn't present some sort of model or some sort of plan makes it like hard. It's basically makes this unfalsifiable, right? Like no other plan that's out there is something like you can go to any college no matter what, it's always free, right? There's almost always like you can do community college, you can do like the public 4-year program, and in that case it's not going to be this like utopia like you're presenting. There is going to be winners and losers picked by the government based on the price thing that you're saying. So I'm not going to grant you that because no plan does this and no plan will do this, right? In terms of the Tennessee, yeah, it is free college, right? Like you could take it a step further and make it debt free, But yeah, it's no free college. Sorry. In terms of the $1 every grad earns, others benefit, Kaplan does go through this within his book, and what he does find is that for each additional year of education, only about 1 to 3% increase in national income, but there's a wage premium of like 8 to 12%. So realistically, that isn't something where people are seeing the bleed off effects. Most of that money, if not all of it, is going to the college grad instead. So that's not a productivity increase. So I have a lot of problems with that, which goes into like a lot of the other critiques you made as well with paying through taxes, right? If the GDP isn't increasing, or total productivity isn't increasing because we have more college grads, then simply taxing them isn't going to work, right? Like there's no new income being introduced because of this, and we're spending all this money to do it, and we have like the people in the first 4 years of their life not being productive, right? Like all of those are happening. Not to mention that as these the increase in 4-year grads have, the price of signaling increases as well. That you have to go for an additional 2 years. So it's not just it's not just everyone spending 4 more years. It's the people who are currently spending 4 years who need to further signal having to go an additional 2 or an additional 2 after that. Yeah, the Columbia example, I'm inclined to believe that, yeah, but that is still a signal, right? Like if an employer hears, yeah, Columbia reduced their coursework, yeah, it's not rocket science to say that their grads won't be as developed, right? And yeah, I'll see the rest of my time.
All right. Well, then with that, we'll get into our 45-minute open debate. Let's get into it.
Yeah, Thick Boy, I'm sorry, I'm not sure you properly address the problems with the signaling theory. Like something like sheepskin, like what's your explanatory factor for the like a college grad at year 3 basically has almost no wage premium over a high school graduate as compared to someone who finished the program?
I mean, that's not true, and a lot of people have critiqued Kaplan's research on that. I think the relationship stands. Like I said, I brought up farmers who achieve any education are more likely to adopt new technologies. That's not something that's with signaling. Workers who have any college education are more able to be trained, easier to be trained. It's more productive to train those types of workers. And finally, at the point where you're putting students in colleges that fit their abilities more, I think the signaling becomes more efficient. That actually you do get more productive students, and that this relationship that Kaplan observed is one of the broken education system we currently exist in, and you can't assume it would exist in a world with free college.
I'm not sure how that addresses like my particular question. Like if I go to school for 3 years, I can't put that on my resume and expect like a wage premium, right? In fact, it could be like a negative signal in the sense that I am a dropout, right? Negative signals is like a dropout is a negative signal in the sense that it tells an employer I can't finish something I dedicate myself to.
Oh, so do people who do 3 years of college make less than people where that signal doesn't exist, where they don't have a negative signal and they didn't drop out?
No, but they make far less than their 4-year
So that doesn't sound like
counterpart.
this relationship you're talking about exists. And applying, getting inferences from that on the entire free college system is probably not useful.
No, I'm sorry, I don't see how that answered my question. What I'm saying, and I mean, maybe we can move on to a different version of it if you want, but I'm basically asking, like, like free college basically exists already, right? Like Yale, Princeton, all these people have their entire catalog online. If we are to say that this human capital does exist,
that's
so
why I
people
brought
can
up.
go through it by themselves, and then they can like get it, like,
That's why I
or
brought up.
alternatively something like Coursera, right? Coursera, you can go through the entire thing and pay at the end if you really think the certification will benefit you.
And these programs are basically junk. I mean, that's why I brought up the University of Michigan example, that when students were offered 4 years free tuition at University of Michigan, they were far more likely to be enrolled in the University of Michigan than if they were offered an equally beneficial aid package that required on them like going through all these hoops and like, oh, it's actually free to go to Harvard if you're smart enough. The signaling you get from tuition prices deters people. They're deterred by like the idea of having to jump through hoops and reapply for scholarships every 4 years, whereas just saying college is free now, empirically, they're far more likely to enroll themselves in college, and then because they're doing that, they're far more likely to graduate from college.
Well, yeah, at the cost of like providing a bunch of people who don't really need it all of this free tuition. And I would agree that like
who don't really need it.
Yeah, like people in the highest income brackets, or
Okay.
I would assume that we would agree that like the wage premium exists. So it seems very strange to say
Why
that.
don't we charge those kids for high school?
What's that?
Why don't we charge rich kids for high school? Why do we give education to rich kids who don't need it for free?
I think there's like other factors going on with people who are going to school under the age of 18. Clearly,
Well, it's because
like
that the value.
half of what our like K through 12 system is like basically babysitting at that
There's
point,
also a
right?
big value
There's
in
lots of
bringing rich kids
inefficiencies.
to
This
public
goes in
institutions. That it's good
this.
to have actually a rich kid say, hey, I could go to Stanford for this much, but Berkeley's free now. And Berkeley's a good college. And then they're going to a college that is now attracting more poor, high achieving people. And that creates benefits in and of itself. So it is good for rich people to go to school with poor people. And if that
Yeah.
costs only taxing the rich people after they graduate, I'd say that's a fair price.
Yeah, the problem though, which goes back to what I was saying about how the national wage increases don't match like the personal wage increases, right? So we're saying
Well,
that
I mean,
yeah,
you
like
have a
this
number and I have
expensive
a number.
college, this expensive college program is going to justify itself because people make more and we'll tax them more, but it doesn't play out the numbers, right?
Well, first of all, when you do adjust for things, first of all, when more people are graduating and they're reaching that signaling bonus, I think that's beneficial. People who go to colleges where they're more capable with their peers are going to be more productive. They're going to form better connections. Everyone knows college is partially about making connections, and those connections are more valuable if the people who you're in college with are on the same academic level and are not there because you all made the same risk calculus on the price of college. So I think these benefits are greatly improved in a free college system. And I think that's why the Upjohn Institute said that the value that college degrees give to the rest of society is really big. College degree holders make jobs, do other things. I think Kaplan's argument that like it's more like a national thing, like when like other countries increase their college attainment, it's like a general principle he finds. I don't think that's applicable to the debate we're having right now. And
I think
that's
it's
why
totally
we both have
applicable.
numbers.
Like,
At the end of the
obviously,
day, the
right?
judges are going to have to judge our numbers. I think mine's a bit more applicable to the topic.
I would certainly say that when we're talking about like a federal free college program, something like national wage increases from additional years of education would be applicable. If the judges really don't think that, then there's nothing more I can do.
Well, if
But I think they see that.
yeah, if
Now,
additional years of
if we're
education
gonna,
in a tuition system or additional years of education in a system where college is free, I think you're going to see different results. And I clarify that, I preempt it, and that's why I used the evidence I did in the case, because I knew that Kaplan would come up.
okay. Going through some of these, yeah, I think you still haven't really dismissed the sheepskin enough. And if we were to talk about the high school, like there's obviously flaws in the high school system as well, right? Like one of the biggest
Not
ones
that
being
people
that
don't pay for it.
people don't retain education, and we teach them a lot of things that aren't really valuable, right? And I'm not to say that these things aren't valuable like necessarily, but in terms of like an economic payoff, they're obviously not, right? Like if we look at the number of people, I think almost everyone in the country goes through at least like a year of foreign language, right? Basically no one retains that. It's something like 87% of people can't speak it to like any degree whatsoever, and then the remaining people are speaking it because they learned it somewhere outside of school, right?
And for people who do end up learning a foreign language, I mean, that's very useful. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to have Spanish. Like I took German class. I can't speak German. I think it did help me. I think I learned logic and like reasoning and grammar and how to like reason things in other languages. And I think I got that kind of like learning how to learn benefit from learning German, even if ich verstehe nicht.
Yeah, we could reform this and just replace these classes with things that we don't actually offer. I mean, we're sticking on high school for a sec. We don't teach, like, most kids aren't required to take a statistics course. Like, I don't think I need, like, any sort of data to say that, like, statistics are far more valuable than a foreign language people don't remember.
Do colleges push statistic courses on their students?
It depends on your degree, obviously, right? This is why I said within. This is why I said within my opening statement.
Grade inflation. Let's talk about the grade inflation issue. Why do you think college effort rigor is going down? Sorry, messing with my AC. Why do you think rigor is going down and grades are going up?
What do I think? Rigor is going down and grades are going up. What do you mean by that?
That people are spending less time studying and grades are rising. And this is a trend we started seeing in the 60s as tuitions rise. It got bad in the 90s. That's when the Brookings wrote, hey, tuition prices and grade inflation are very correlated. And today it's even worse that only a full-time college student only is in the class and studying for about 19 hours a week, which is many would call that part-time.
Yeah, colleges are rewarded with high retention rates and high graduation rates.
Money.
Basically,
as buy a
service
from them,
if students,
they want to retain that money.
If students think that they can make it through this college, they gain the benefits that the degree offers them, and they don't have to work that hard to get it. Of course, they'll go.
Yeah, but that's why we're seeing the signaling problem you're talking about. If you're constantly devaluing how much learning a degree actually is, And you're doing so because you want to just rake in as much money from students as possible. It's no wonder you're seeing the sheepskin effect take place. That, oh yeah, we're just getting this degree, and then it's not actually improving the economy that much, because even though the economy is growing, we need more college grads to fill out these things. We're paying them more money. They're not actually being as productive as they would have been in the past, or would have been if it wasn't.
This is we don't need more college grads. I referenced this in my opening statement that the underemployment rate for 4-year degree holders is 45%, 10 years after graduating, right? It shows that these people are not being trained with skills that are like directly applicable for the job market.
Reduced rigor from grade inflation and things like that, because they're there to pay the university a lot of money, mostly for this like cultural value we get from going to college that the university's happy to apply. I think they say that humanities, math, students learn the most, then engineers, and then communications, business, these other degrees basically learn nothing after college. And I think part of that is because they're mostly there to, get a signal. The university's there to collect money, and it's incentivized to make this problem worse and worse every single year. And that's why we've seen the problem get worse and worse.
Wait, so you're saying that all of these people are not working in jobs that require college degrees because of lack of rigor in the university?
I think the fact that lack of rigor is happening is very much correlated to their decreased wages, and that's why I showed the Columbia example. I think you were incorrect, because that study specifically points out that this was not something that these employers were aware of. This was more something happening that, most people aren't aware, like Columbia, decreased the economic coursework in their classes. They see your GPA is this, you had this many coursework hours. It all looks to be the same on paper, but they found that even though all the signals to the employer remain the same, the wages that those people were able to do and their productivity went down by almost an equivalent amount based on how much the coursework went down. And that's because college wants to get money, and they just want a degree, and that's bad.
I'm sorry, this still isn't answering what I'm talking about, which is like if 45% of people who graduate with college degrees are not working in a job with college degrees, are you telling me that it's out there that need the college graduates, but not hiring these people because somehow they're not qualified?
Nursing, other things that do in fact require college degrees. I don't know that 45% of college degree holders aren't. What do you mean by not jobs that require college?
Generally, they're working in something sales, retail, something like office jobs, something along these lines.
Do you think they earn more money than their non-college degree holders?
Well, they're certainly more employable. I would agree with that. It's harder to say if they're money, but they have an advantage over the people who can go to college.
So, like in a sales job, why are sales guys with college degrees earning more sales guys without college degrees?
I'm not saying they are. What I was saying is
holders, it's like weird because you're saying college degree holders don't need the money because they already earn so much money. But then also, college degree holders actually aren't making more money. They're actually they're getting the same jobs that non-college degree holders have. I don't think both those can be true. I don't think
the wage premium still exists, right? But it's clearly saying that like we don't need to educate more people if they're not already working in jobs that require the education, right?
No, we do.
It's giving those people an advantage, which like I wouldn't blame anyone for going to school if it's giving them that advantage. That's certainly the right move. But it's not giving any societal returns, right?
It is getting societal returns, and that's why we see that they make more money, they improve. Like the study on like, oh yeah, when you increase college graduation by 5%, the murder rate goes down by 18%, which is like, if every college graduate led to one less murder, there would be no murder.
So you touched on something a moment ago that I also wanted to bring up. You were saying that like you're basically making some hierarchy of jobs that we will need, which is one that I would agree with, like something like tech, nursing, all that. I think the problem I have is that likely people are picking those jobs today because they find that it will be easier to pay off the student loans they will eventually accrue, right? In a system where they don't have to take out those student loans, why would they be more inclined to take that over something that's more interesting to them, like psychology or history or any of those?
Nursing's growing because the population's getting older. We have more healthcare. We need more nurses. Tech's going up because technology's increasing. We're new technologies, and we need people who can adapt to those technologies, use those technologies, and can be trained to use those technologies, all of which are correlated with a higher education. That's why we need more college holders, not because college holders need jobs, and so they invent fake demand for nursing and tech.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
What I'm saying is that a lot of the reason people are picking those fields, I don't disagree that the demand for those.
Demand.
I understand, but But the reason I need to clarify that a lot of the reason people are picking those is so that it's easier for them to pay off their loans, right? The premium is higher there, so they have to worry less about, say, like 20 years from now, still paying off their loans, right? So in a system where that's no longer a fear of theirs, why would they still be inclined to pick these? Wouldn't it be more obvious that they're inclined to pick the degrees that have the lower payoff?
Their desire to make money. It's not like, oh, I have to nurse. I would much rather just be doing like much less work for less money. But oh, geez, my loans. I have to make more money. Like, people want to make more money. They want to be more productive. Giving them more college graduates who are better trained is going to improve that. Even if there isn't more college graduates, just having people have colleges that aren't incentivized to inflate grades and are incentivized to go to colleges that actually match their skill set is hugely beneficial. Even if not a single extra person graduates, that's like a benefit that I don't think you can account for.
Yeah, so this is just like, I'm sorry, this is just like denying like common sense on this, which is like, I'm someone who graduated with an engineering degree. Like, it's not easy. And one of the main reasons I did it was because of the high wage premiums. If you were to tell me instead that I could go for something like psychology and effectively like sacrifice no additional or incur no debt,
in a college world, psychology wouldn't be more lucrative. It wouldn't be more lucrative to be a psychologist.
This is the hard part, that you didn't specify a particular plan, because in a debt-free plan, like Bernie Sanders, which is they're paying for tuition and everything else.
In another world,
sorry,
I would come up here and just argue a debt-free plan, and you'd say that's not free college, that's just debt-free. Debt-free is a program you'd see in a con world. So like, you can't just stick me that I have to defend all of the inefficiencies. And also, do you want to know some other inefficiencies about
let's get our definition straight. Let's get our definition straight. What is debt-free? In your opinion?
Debt-free is that at the it means adjusted so that no student takes on debt.
Yeah, but specifically for what? Tuition, non-tuition costs, like. Because under Bernie's
any
plan,
type of program, there's lots. There's a million of these I looked up.
Yeah,
you could have it for tuition. You could have it for housing costs.
This was important to my point, and why I use that specific term is that debt-free, as it's used by most people, is tuition and all the non-tuition costs associated with it, including like food, housing, which is like obviously much more expensive than like the Tennessee one we've been talking about, right? They're only covering tuition.
That still runs into the value of zero that I talk about in the case. That you can actually, they pointed out in that study, you can give one of the students even more aid through the hoops they have to jump, and they're actually still less likely to choose that program. And they're more likely to engage in a rigorous program because they just see free college tuition. And that sets their mind at ease. It makes it easier for them to take a big risk. Even if all college is free, we cover everything. It's still a big opportunity cost. And for poor people, not all of the inequalities are eliminated. But it goes a huge step to making them choose the right decisions. And decisions actually.
This is why I brought up the debt, because essentially you're being financed for every step of the way, right? Why wouldn't I just like do the very bare minimum and get a history degree and contribute to the fact that there's something like 3,000 historian jobs out there and like 25,000 historian majors who graduate
They're not
every year.
incentivized to offer degrees that don't offer high wages. They're more incentivized to go with policies that produce more productive workers that earn more money, whether that be through government mandate or just a need to attract students and be able to say, hey, apply to this free college where our students are more likely to earn more money. There's lots of reasons that colleges are incentivized to produce high earners in a free college world, whereas in the status quo, they're incentivized to give them whatever degree they want, pamper them, give them as much amenities as they want, and give them a degree that ultimately they didn't work for, is not producing the benefits that you'd see, and is leading to people like Brian Kaplan to write that, hey, college actually isn't improving anything, because since the 60s, we've seen the amount of time actually spent studying and learning go down.
Yeah, this isn't making sense to me, that somehow in the free college world, colleges are more incentivized to reduce the number of history degrees, right? In both the world that we have now, and the world where it's free, colleges are still incentivized to tell people who are applying, like, hey, like these degrees pay more, or our college pays more on average. I don't see why that would change in the free college world.
Those degrees a lot easier because they just want to get more money. Whereas the government might say like, hey, the funding is based on like how productive a college is. And this is like what you see in a lot of countries that have free college, where their best, most productive college is also the largest college because it attracts a lot of students. It gets a lot of funding. The government's able to expand it based on how productive the workers it's producing are, and not necessarily just by how like prestigious it is or how much money is going into it. It also causes competition between wealthy schools. that I think is missed, or of private schools, that when Berkeley is free, Stanford has to work harder to make its college degrees more valuable. And I think that's something that's often missed by analyses on free college.
This was the frustrating part when I was doing my research on this, is that a lot of the time private universities are better for low-income students than public ones. And a lot of that being that one of the main reasons that they charge so much more is because they're basically, the students who can't afford it are financing the students who can't. The private universities have the grants that are available.
Is simply the benefit of free college.
Yeah, but this is the thing, is that like already something like 27% of students are already getting free tuition, and that's across public and private.
Sure, but this is like a thing, like, yeah, it's really great for the dude who's like poor but a genius that he can go to Harvard for free. But the guy who's like maybe like just good enough, who would have to pay much more money, that's not helpful to them. And these people on the margins get left out. And that creates a lot of problems that I think leads to the sorting issue. That 40% of kids right now are going to colleges that don't match their actual academic rigor. When you go to a college that doesn't match your rigor, you're less likely to graduate and more likely to have these other issues. And I think that's important. So let me ask, do you think it's good that somebody might choose a college?
I need to stop you on that real quick, because just a second ago you were talking about how once the college is free, they'll be more inclined to likely filter based on like the abilities of these students. If we're saying that, we should also probably easily be able to acknowledge that these students from low socioeconomic statuses are going to be worse off on like the front, right? So if these colleges are filtering and saying like, hey, merit is what's going to get you into it, then those students who are in the low socioeconomic bracket are going to get filtered out in the free college system.
There are a billion like economic barriers that prevent a student from going to college. I'm not saying that this is going to cause all the poor kids to be able to go to Harvard. I am saying they're more likely to go to community college, which is good. Those who were going to community college are more likely to go to four-year universities, and those who went to mediocre four-year universities are cheap are more likely to go to more prestigious, more.
I've actually seen that they're less.
That's why you see when you waive tuition prices, people are 20% more likely, 25% more likely to choose a university that better matches their skill. So this is empirically shown that when tuition goes away, people choose a college based on what fits them best, not based on how much money can I afford right now. And so, like, can you justify why
this is just incredibly unlikely,
based
right?
on the cost?
This is the hard part that I had, is that when you said, I don't have any plan for this just isn't how it works, right? All of the popular plans are something like 2-year community college, 4-year public schools. Now what this is saying instead is that now the price is in favoring those schools.
No plans. Right? We didn't want to have this debate on me going up here saying we need to give 2 years free community college, here's all these benefits on this really specific thing. We're talking about the general principle of
you said you
free
didn't have
college.
one. You didn't want one. I would rather you.
I already said these studies are specific. They look at free tuition. When tuition is waived, people choose colleges better. That fits into the general principle on free college, and that's important. I talk about free community college programs. I'm talking about all sorts of college programs. The fact that you cannot justify the financial barrier, besides just what you did about the why have students who can pay not pay? I think that is an argument against the resolution, right? Like that would be a bad thing about free college. But all these other things are just nitpicks that don't actually address why it's good that students choose colleges based on cost and not based on their academic fit to the college. And
I just gave one, and maybe you missed it. Yeah, maybe you missed it. What I was saying in the universal free college program, the students with the better grades are going to be coming from the middle and high up socioeconomic classes instead. And so if colleges are then having to decide to admit people based on merit, you're going to see those people in the low socioeconomic bracket being crowded out.
Merit selects for people who have more money. But do you know what selects for that even more? Selecting for money. Like, of course, people right now, people who have money can just go to college. And my world, people who are rich, their parents are more attentive, they can be in training programs, blah, blah, blah. They are more likely to attend a high value institution. But poor people are also more likely to attend a high value institution because they will be judged based on their merit, not based on 1, their ability to pay, or 2, their ability to judge these complex hoops and barriers that currently exist. We're like, oh, Harvard's actually free, but like people don't know that. And secondly, the signaling effect this creates is huge. That when people know college is free, they change their entire academic trajectory from elementary school, middle school, high school. Their entire plans are changed and they adapt to that. And that's something studies can't really address, is how that a student in middle school who knows his college will be free will change his academic performance and behavior to adapt to that expectation, which is really important. And that's why that study found such a huge benefit to free college and such a small benefit to means-tested programs that you're saying are good enough.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that 27% of students are already getting free tuition probably says that they are good enough, right? If like the bottom 25% income bracket is getting it, yeah, I would say that's a good thing.
No,
right?
because when you actually correlate this, when you actually study this, you find that when students are presented with the option of not being told about the free tuition, being told about free tuition programs, or the means tested programs, even with means testing giving them more money per year, they choose the 4-year free education. They're far more likely to enroll in college. So yeah, sure, 27% of people currently get free tuition, but when you make it just an expectation of free college, that number goes way up. They're much more engaged, much more likely to apply to the right college, and that's a benefit you're just never going to see. Even if I just grant you that, like, yeah, like, sure, the Democrats get control of the country and they pass a bunch of like good means-tested tuition aid programs forever.
Which like, this is the hard part that you didn't give us a plan, is that like the winners and losers are going to be important here, right? Because the more that the signaling theory is true, the more inefficient our college system is. And unfortunately, like, this is the way the politics will play out, is that it'll decide something like public 4-year will be free. And the unfortunate part is that, I'm sorry, I haven't been speaking that long and I let you go for a while. Now what I'm saying is that without this plan, the problem is, or without you enumerating it, we don't know who the winners and losers are going to be. And so if there are these inefficiencies within our college system, if there is some sort of better alternative, the plan that's put forward needs to be adaptable to that. Now, you just saying there's just going to be free college all the way across the board won't necessarily account for things like
these alternatives.
It could be that something like a tech boot camp is something that's far better at producing better tech workers as they come out. That's something that because this plan is going to be very discreet in that. We need to know that ahead of time. This is why it was important for you to define it.
What if you said, instead of universal education and free college, we just have free healthcare? That would produce better benefits and the money would be better spent. That wouldn't be fair to me. It's not fair for you to assume all of these things that aren't happening in the real world will happen just because it helps your argument. That free college should be shut down because we can imagine unrealistic programs that might happen, but as we're seeing, aren't happening. The status quo, the trajectory is clear. College is getting more expensive. It's getting less valuable. And students are getting shut out of the system. You can't just assume, oh no, in 2 years we'll all have debt-free community college programs or more means-tested, better aid. Or like what do you think, tech workshop?
Yeah, what I said is like
workshops, whatever it is. You can't just assume those are going to happen. We're here to discuss the merits of free college.
Because you need to put forward some sort of plan, because there are practical realities of this, right? Like something like Bernie's debt-free program is incredibly politically unpopular. And so for you to say, well, this is the one that we should do, it's highly unlikely that it would ever
just run into a political popularity argument midway through the debate. But my whole case, every piece of evidence I give is talking about the effect of reducing or making tuition free. Either relationships we see that when tuition prices go down, graduation rates go up, or direct benefits of free college, that when college is free, you see specific benefits that don't exist in means testing. So I've given you the formula here, that free college produces huge benefits. Whether it's free tuition, if maybe I'm not going to argue.
When you brought up the fact that graduation rates go up, I talked about the underemployment rate of jobs, but that didn't matter, right? The fact that we are training these people for jobs that like don't require college degrees, to me that seems like a systemic inefficiency. Why should we increase funding to a system like that?
I already gave the relationship that more education makes people more trainable, makes their wages go up, even if their job is like something that a high school graduate could do, and it makes them more likely to adapt new technologies.
Why couldn't they have spent those 4 years?
That exist, even if people don't graduate college.
These people were already capable of being trained. It seems obvious.
Yeah, and now
Like,
they're getting.
why did we spend?
Everyone's
Why would we want to
capable of
spend?
doing. Everybody's capable of doing math, right? You would still say your engineering education was very important in your ability. You were always able to do math, but your engineering degree gave you training and things that let you do that better. That's the point of the college education.
That directly requires an engineering. Yeah. Now I would ask. Now again, like I said, I was going to ask the question. Like, why would we have these people go through an expensive 4-year program if we knew that they were trainable from the start, right?
Because the 4-year program makes them more likely. It makes them easier to train. When people go through college education,
these people are graduating with history degrees. They're not working as a historian, and they're going to work in some sort of office job or sales or retail. If we know that they're trainable, we know that they're smart. Why would we have them go through the program? Why can't they just study history in their free time?
History degrees actually are fairly rigorous. There's not a lot of jobs in historians, but like when we do study history degrees, they are up there with like engineers and like how much they learn versus like communications or business majors. So I wouldn't just say that this is a useless degree. You get all these benefits.
It's useless in terms of the job market. Clearly, because there's 25,000 historian majors that graduate per year, and there's 3,500 historian jobs.
They learn other things. They learn how to learn. They learn to be better trained. They learn academic rigor and other things that are beneficial.
I think it's very clear these people had all of these traits before going to college.
No, that's not true.
Very little
at all, and that's why that is why you see when rigor goes down, wages go down. They are less productive when they are less academically rigorous. Of course, they always had it in them the whole time, but when they aren't trained as hard or as rigorous, they make less money and they're worse workers. That's empirically shown.
Okay, this is like the human capital thing again, right? But
yeah,
I guess I would just ask you, just tell me something. Would you have 4 years of a Princeton education without the degree, or would you take the Princeton degree without the education?
Probably the degree without the education, but that's not.
Wait, why? Weren't we just saying that college is granting them all of these very useful skills that made them so much better at the job and didn't require the college degree?
As I said, the work is not the rigor has been going down for quite a while. I don't think you're actually learning that many useful skills in college right now because the college just wants to attract money. And also the time spent. Also the time spent earning that degree is a big cost. The time spent earning that degree is a big cost. So just achieving the degree for free is like a huge benefit. That's like a better cost benefit.
Yeah, from a signaling perspective,
for me to cheat out my employer so I can lie to my employer about my qualifications, I would rather instantly be given a degree than be sent through 4 years of training to not get a degree. But that's just my selfish.
Totally. But isn't this just like saying
what about national policy? What if instead, what if as national, right? Let me do this, because I think this kind of really flips your example on its head. What if as national policy, we trained everybody or trained eligible workers 4 years in Princeton education versus giving those workers the degree just on its without the education? Which do you think would be better national policy?
I don't think it's a good idea to do that. I'm clearly saying that there are inefficiencies.
Like you're asking me, would you by lying about your qualifications? Of course, that doesn't make it good policy.
Yeah, what
doesn't
I was
make
just
it
saying,
good that I got a degree without earning it.
What I was just saying a second ago.
People to go through the training. We understand the human capital argument.
Okay, whenever you're ready. Okay, now what I was saying is clearly that like the signaling is there, and it's obviously outweighing the human capital, which you just agreed with, right?
Yeah, and I already explained the reasons for that.
Go ahead, explain it to me again. I really want to understand it.
Okay, yeah. So the signaling is becoming a worse and worse problem because academic rigor is becoming worse and worse. Every year you study the human capital argument.
Hold on.
You asked me to explain it. You said explain it to me.
I get it. That was it. That was all I needed. I promise. Now, if that's true,
well, there's also the sorting. There's also the sorting argument, which I want all the audience to know. Is the sorting argument is very important.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, it's just right now we see this human capital relationship exist because academic rigor is going down because of the tuition incentive, and people are not being placed into the correct colleges because they're choosing colleges based on what they can afford and not what college fits them best. And all of these are solved with free tuition.
Yeah, but none of this, like, okay, if I'm in the right college or not, isn't addressing the fact that 45% of people 10 years after graduating aren't even working in jobs that require college degrees.
It does address that.
If I'm going to a state school or Yale, isn't
proper
necessarily the problem there, right?
You are much less likely to graduate. You're much less likely to graduate. You didn't get the proper training, the proper connections, and all of that is because we have this high tuition model that wants people to select college based on how much they can afford and how much risk they're willing to take, and not based on what is their merit, like what college can they best compete at.
Yeah, and an even worse problem with this, I should say, is that if we're just like trying to inflate the number of people with college degrees, in which you just granted me that it's mostly signaling anyways, then we're just devaluing the degree. If signaling
No.
is just granted in the fact that, like, yeah, I have
No,
all
because
these
we're not just
traits,
giving
the
people
more
degrees,
people who
we're
have the signal
eliminating.
and the less it costs, which will be the eventual result, means that in order to stand out from that crowd, to prove that I am the better worker, I need to take on more college to increase the value of my signal. I need my master's or my PhD or
No,
something like that. This is
because the
reducing
value
productivity,
of the
something I brought
education,
up earlier.
the rigor of the education goes up. So when you say college actually is more about having the degree, when you actually control for how much wages are decreased by degrees becoming easier to get, you see that it's a lot more complicated than that. That when degrees become easier, people are less productive and their wages are worth less. So of course, the signaling problem is worse in your world, and in my world, yeah, you have maybe more college degrees. You do have more college degrees, but those college degrees are people who are better suited for their college and went through better training with more rigor and who are going to be more productive. And that evidence that Brian Kaplan saw, if he did that study in a free college world, he wouldn't get the same results. He wouldn't write that book if we
What
had
I was
free
just
college
saying,
tuition in the United States.
I don't think that's answering what I was just saying, which is that as the number of college degree holders increases, the value of the signal decreases. Even in a world where all of the academic
Human
rigor across
capital goes up.
hold on, I'm explaining. As all the academic rigor across all colleges increase, like from a personal perspective, then it doesn't matter, right? There's
No,
more
it does
people with
matter.
college degree. Why? How?
Because human capital goes up. You make that human capital issue that's vague right now. It's like fuzzy and dim. It's like a dim like thing in the data. You don't see a lot of human capital development because of the grade inflation and rigor we've lost, and the sorting
We've
issues.
already admitted we don't value that, right?
No, we do value it.
Well, I
I
mean,
don't. I want to make
okay.
money at the cost of everyone else. But if I was the president of a country and I had the choice, give everyone a degree from Princeton or train everyone a Princeton education without giving them a degree, I would obviously choose the second. It would make my nation better. The first one is simply what a freeloader does. I am a freeloader, but I want the people voting to realize that it is better policy in the United States to give people college training and then get the degree than it is to just, oh, it's just a signal. We'll just give them a degree because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's not what I was proposing at all, which is weird that you asked me that.
Because you're using you're trying to narrow it in that, oh, I admitted that signaling's all that matters because I choose the degree, but that's not relevant to the topic at hand.
No. Yeah, I guess like with what you're saying about the human capital portion, it seems very strange that you would admit it on the local level. But then when I bring up the fact that something like national income isn't increasing per year of education, I mean, I guess we can just go back to this as being like disagreements about numbers.
Quality of education going down.
Yeah, the thing is, the quality of the signal is going to go down too.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
It seems to me that you
value
it.
The signal. Do you value the signal or the human capital more? If you had a choice between improving the signal or improving human capital, you would of course choose human capital, right?
If there was a system that was increasing the human capital, I would support that. But
So
free college is
your
not
argument
that.
is,
If you're admitting that to me, you're admitting college isn't
Let's
doing that.
focus on how free college doesn't increase human capital, not that human capital doesn't outweigh signals going down. Because if the signal is weaker, that is completely outweighed by a potential human capital increase, right?
Yeah, this is the reason I'm bringing up like the
then
national
let's not-
income is that the
we both
signal is
agree
not weaker, right? If
The
we're
signal-
seeing that the wage premiums are higher than the national income
The
premiums,
signal is overtaking the human capital because the incentive is for colleges to focus on the signal and not on the human capital. That is the problem. That's why half my opening speech was about improving the quality of the human capital at the expense potentially of the signal.
and I don't see how granting these colleges these basically a blanket funds is something that's going to do
Not
that.
what I said either.
Like, why would they compete in any sort of market?
It's not
at this
blanket
point either?
funds.
That's the whole thing, right? Like, and this is the importance of like you needing to lay out a plan because depending on who you give the funds to, it depends on how they innovate, right? This is
Yeah, I
already
mean,
what we're
obviously, I
seeing,
could lay
right?
out a really good plan or a really bad plan. There's a million ways we could do free college. Some could cause nuclear war. Others could greatly improve the value of a college degree. The
Yeah,
point
just
is,
comparing and contrast.
what
We
I'm
have
showing is the
steps.
relationships. What I'm showing is the relationships that when you decrease tuition or make college free, you see the value of a degree go up. You see people choose better colleges, and then you see that the number of people who go to college is improved, or who try to go to college is improved. So even if colleges didn't admit anyone extra in like a pro world, imagine that colleges just they don't admit anyone more. We still have the same number of college grads. The fact that more people are competing for the free college, more people are choosing the right colleges, would still make this program worth it, even if we didn't see a single extra college grad, which we actually would. We'd probably see a lot more college grads because there'd be less dropouts because people are matched to the system better. But
Yeah, and I still don't think this is interacting with the underemployment rate thing there, right? Like, for
yes, it
one,
is.
like
The
I don't know
underemployment
why
rate,
I don't know why we would assume that there wouldn't be more college grads when we make college free. Obviously, more people are going to enroll, but like if we
doesn't
already
mean
see that
then
if we
what do
already
they
see
do?
that the
Would a
underemployment
college
rate is
just
so
let
high,
itself
I don't know
would a
why it
college
would
just
go
let
down.
itself get packed like sardines? Like, oh no, we've let everyone who comes in attend, and now we don't know what to do. No, they would just increase the increase the requirements to get into the college.
And again, now we're going back to the fact that we're not doing some sort of progressive policy. That's going to be very regressive. You're
No, it's
basically
not
saying,
regressive.
excuse me, but like which socioeconomic class is going to have the best grades? Which are going to have the best merit
Who's
signals when
going to
they're
have the
leaving high
most
school?
money? Who's going to have the most money to pay for college?
Yeah, the thing is, we already have the means testing
It's like one
program.
of those things.
This is how
Yes,
you. This is the
obviously,
way we do
in
it
my
in a way
world,
that's not
rich
like
people are
exorbitantly
better off.
expensive already.
Rich people are better at being highly educated, but they are the best at being rich. So, of course, in my world, rich people are more likely to go to college than poor people. But what you specifically see is low-income students are much more likely to be able to compete, choose colleges where they're able to, choose better colleges and all these other things. That 50% increased likelihood of attending the University of Michigan. That's a study
Why
of
can't we do that with
low-income
the means?
students.
Why can't we do that with the means testing system right now?
Because we saw when we tested this, we offered means testing and we offered
Uh-huh.
free guaranteed tuition. We saw that means testing hardly was statistically significant. The students were confused by it. There was uncertainty. They thought, well, maybe I get free tuition this year, but what about next year? They have to do all these paperwork and bureaucratic other things that make it less likely for poor people to apply for these programs. And then,
4 minute
whereas
warning.
the guarantee
Yeah,
free college produces
it
benefits
would
above
obviously
and beyond its actual price.
it would obviously cost a lot less to simply either make that process more expedient
And you
or
would get,
provide more
yeah.
counselors to help with the process.
Well, what you saw is that even
Why
with,
wouldn't we do that instead of making
because
college free
because
for everyone, including the people who don't need it, who are already at the
empirically,
high and middle income brackets?
empirically, it doesn't work. One, if you only do free community college, people who would go to four-year universities instead go to community college, so that's not good.
Yeah, I have
When you
data
make
that says otherwise on that.
what?
It says that they're 18% less likely to transfer to 4-year if they start at community college.
Well, I'm saying that only free community college is not ideal. I'm just saying all free college is good. Even the high achievement colleges that you think should be walled off because they earn too much
Wait,
income.
I'm sorry.
Even those,
Why are we on which college is free?
okay, okay.
My
Let
question
me
was
go back.
on
Let me go
means
back. Let
testing
me go
and how
back.
we can
Yeah,
improve
yeah,
that.
yeah. What you see is those mean testing programs don't actually increase the likelihood that these students are going to enroll in these colleges, and that the price of zero is highly valued by consumers. Knowing with certainty that they have free tuition makes them better able to plan throughout their entire academic career and more likely to envision themselves and make the other risks necessary to choose to go to these colleges. And that's why they were 50% more likely to attend the University of Michigan, which is a highly selective public university,
So why
whereas the
couldn't we
means testing
instead
program
say
showed bump. It showed nothing.
everyone who grows up in a household that's in the bottom 25% income bracket has free tuition? Aren't
Well,
we
you're just
then
admitting
achieving
that
that?
free
Isn't that a
tuition is
lot?
good.
Well, isn't
Then
this
we just go to
achieving
my
your
argument.
goal?
Let me just
Isn't
go to my
Hold on.
argument
I
about.
just need to let me finish the point, then you can respond. Isn't this achieving your goal of giving them the signal they need to be successful all throughout the rest of their academic career
No, because they
and
don't
being
know
a lot
how.
cheaper than like
No,
universal free college?
no, because they might not know their parents' income. They might not know if they apply to that. Whereas that's why they say in this program that when they're given the option of free
Students don't
university
know their parents'
versus
income.
means
2
tested
minute
program,
warning.
they choose the free university, or well, they're not given the choice. It's a random, like the students who are offered free 4 years are far more likely to attend a highly selective college than the students who are offered a
I'm sorry,
generous
that just
means
seems
tested
totally
program.
strange to me. They don't know like what income bracket they're in, therefore we should make everything free.
There's confusion, uncertainty, and other barriers that make means testing less efficient. And also, I already talked about the benefits of having rich kids go to college with poor kids. That there is a lot of benefits to having rich kids go to free public universities, whereas means testing them does not produce the same benefits. And
How does
even
means
if that's not
testing not
true,
have more
even
poor
if that's
kids
not
go to
true,
college?
I would rather tax the rich kid's family and tax the rich kids after they graduate college than impose a barrier of entry to college for them with the price. I don't think
I mean, we can
get
still tax them
utility
in the means
on
testing
tuition.
system as well. That's not something that we have to only do in the free college system.
What?
We can tax them in both systems. We don't have to, the universal one isn't the only one where we can tax them.
Yeah, but
And
then,
it seems
like
to
I
me
said,
like
also,
it would be
like I
far
said,
more
also,
efficient to
when
stick with the
Berkeley is
means
free
testing.
for rich people, when Berkeley's free for rich people, schools like Stanford also have to compete better to keep their kids from going to Berkeley, which is a very good education. So it is good for rich kids to have these kind of programs because what we care about when it comes to college education is not the fairness of the free market. It's about producing academic rigor and college graduates that are going to be productive and help us.
Which I would say there's tons of problems with that already, as I pointed to at the
Yeah, because
underemployment rate
we
and
have
all
a
the
system.
signaling issues we see, like the sheepskin effect.
I mean, we've talked about the signaling issues at length. It's just like
Yeah.
the signaling issues are exacerbated by the issue of grade inflation, which you can't really address, and the issue of sorting, which I don't know if you've talked about at all. Why somebody should choose a college based on what they can afford and not where they're best fit.
I mean, the other thing we didn't talk about was credential inflation, which is far more important, right? The fact
No,
that as
because
you have,
the rigor
this
goes
is
up.
something that's happened over time, right?
All right, we will now move into our first closing statements, which will be 3 minutes long from each side. First closing statements, but first a 1 minute shared preparation break. Your 1 minute shared preparation break starts now. This preparation break is brought to you by the U.S. Army. This is the story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense systems. It begins in California, with a little girl raised by two moms. Although she had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, and played violin, she also marched for equality. When she was 6 years old, one of her moms had an accident that left her paralyzed. Doctors said she might never walk again. But she tapped into her family's pride to marry her other mom. With such powerful role models, she finished high school at the top of her class and then attended UC Davis. But as graduation approached, she began feeling like she'd been handed so much in life. Sure, she'd spent her life around inspiring women, but what had she really achieved on her own? One of her sorority sisters was studying abroad in Italy, another was climbing Mount Everest. She needed her own adventures, her own challenge. And after meeting with an army recruiter, she found it. A way to prove her inner strength and maybe shatter some stereotypes along the way. This is the story of U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone, who answered her calling. Have you? All right. Now for our first closing statement on the pro side, which is Thick Boy. 3 minutes on the clock. When you're ready, you can start.
Sorry, let me set up my timer. All right, so I think the first issue that Stink's arguments kind of boil down to, the only thing he has is the signaling argument that comes from Kaplan. This argument is not a reason to reject free tuition. It's a reason to be frustrated with the current trajectory of education. That's what we're showing. The reason signaling is becoming so important is because academic rigor and other things are going down. The only thing that matters now is the actual getting a degree. When you have free tuition, the incentive for colleges to do that goes away, and they're more likely to actually train the students and actually do their job as a university and what the public wants. That's why I presented the question. Would you rather your country give everyone a 4-year degree?
This is a debate on whether college should be free or not. To answer your question, Arnett.
When employers do not have this signal, this is important. When they don't see this signal, when you see colleges decrease coursework by 20%, wages go down by 16%, almost 1-to-1. That right there, the colleges don't know that econ got easier. They see the grades, they see the hours that the school completed, and you see empirically the relationship that coursework goes down, wages go up. So there is benefit. The human capital argument is real, and human capital is increased when tuition goes away. All of these issues with signaling are made worse by the funding scheme. Then on the second issue is going to be increasing attendance. He can't really address this, that when you offer full free tuition, people are far more likely to attend colleges and attend the right colleges than they are if you simply offer means-tested programs. He says, oh, well, why do this for rich people? Well, because frankly, it's easier and it allows for everyone to be able to plan and understand the expectations and opportunities that await them. That when Berkeley has free tuition for rich kids, that's better because it encouraged competition with Stanford to also adopt better practices and higher rigor and increase income and other things because we move away from the signaling model. Then that's why you see that people who get free tuition are also 3 times more likely to graduate, as you see in Rhode Island. That's really important because if signaling is the problem, you see poor kids more likely to graduate university, which is really important. If the signal and value of a degree goes down, that's not as important because the third final argument is about increasing rigor and improving sorting. That he cannot justify why grade inflation is happening, whereas I can tell you that grade inflation very literally is correlated with high tuitions. So when tuitions go up, grades become easier, academic rigor goes up, and then people like Brian Kaplan say, oh my God, education doesn't matter. They're not learning anything in college, which means college is useless and human capital doesn't exist. But that's not true. You see, when you do increase rigor, wages go up, students get better taught, and when students go to the right college, when they choose university based on their ability and not their expectations of how they're going to pay for it, they're 80% more likely to graduate. They're more likely to get better connections, improve this human capital, and other things. So yeah, all these reasons, please vote pro.
All right, and 3 minutes over to Sync.
Yeah, I think the big thing you keep saying is that academic rigor is going to go up in a universal free system, and I simply don't see the connection as to how that's being made there. It seems like I probably compare it to something like when the federal government took over providing a lot of loans. Did we see academic rigor go up in that same period of time? Like, no, like we're arguing that it in fact has gone down over time. So I don't see how the increased access to college, either through and comparing it to the federal loan system or the universal free program, would increase rigor. That's something I'd really like you to address in this second open debate. Just going through your arguments, sorry. The decrease in coursework by 16%. Yeah, again, that's just like one example. It seems pretty obvious to me that like across like your average college experience, you still see things like the sheepskin effect, right? And alternatively, if we are seeing the decrease in rigor that you've been talking about, then why are we not seeing college like wage premiums across the scale go down, right? Because that's essentially saying that the human capital is going down because the academic rigor is going down. Then wage premiums should also be going down, right? But that's not something we've been seeing. Wage premiums still are at an all-time high. So it encourages competition. Again, I would like you to provide something for that. It seems to me that because there's so much more demand, that the competition isn't really there increasing, right? And then, yeah, again, free tuition will result in 3 times more likely to graduate, but I think that's a problem, not necessarily a good thing. I think the fact that so many people have already graduated and they're not working in jobs that require that degree means that we train those people for no particular reason. And then I'll end that there. I'll see the rest of my time.
All right, we'll now move into our 9-minute overtime portion of the debate. You have 9 minutes more for open debate starting now.
So why should the federal government giving free loans to colleges, to students to take with the colleges, why would you expect that to increase rigor?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, my mic cut out.
So why is giving colleges a blank check through the loan program? Why are you saying that, oh, that didn't increase rigor? Giving students free money to throw at colleges to provide them a service that they're paying for. Why do I need to show that would improve rigor?
Because that's your claim, right? You're essentially, yeah, that's what you've been saying this whole time, that once we make it free, then these colleges will be incentivized to make the degree harder because that will maintain the signal, right?
Program, that's a really bad argument because with the loan program, they're throwing money at students and the colleges are just incentivized to gobble up as much of that money as possible because it's still the paid tuition model. So of course that's not going to show the benefits that I would talk about. It's just throwing fuel on the fire of the tuition issue. That's the entire basis of the case.
From the college's perspective, what's the difference between the federal government covering the entire tuition versus just a partial loan?
Because a loan between the student and the college comes with no strings or funding from the federal government about anything. It's just giving students money to choose their way through college. It creates all sorts of bad incentives for colleges to accept money from students and give them a degree and not care what happens. And that's why that's why every the Brookings Institute and others said, tuition prices partially. One of the reasons tuition prices are going up is because there's all these free loans that students can get. They can throw money on the fire, which exacerbates everything. It makes everything worse when there's just
how is this different than the free
loans.
system? That was my question.
What?
How is this different than the free system? That's my question.
Yeah, because the free system, the money wouldn't be coming directly from the student. It wouldn't be a service provided to the student to give them their perfect experience in college. It would be coming from.
What's the fundamental difference between the government providing the loan versus them just paying it outright with no expectation of the student paying it back?
Because you're just like throwing it into the air in a second. You're just throwing it to the wind. Yeah, from the college's perspective, they are getting money from the federal government that is reliant on providing, benefits to the federal government, doing their job. Or these are mostly state-run colleges. All these things are going to be more restricted and controlled by the government, whereas just giving every student a loan to go and like spend your heart out, buddy, like that. Of course,
it sounds like you're proposing we nationalize the colleges.
No. That's why I clarified state government. Most of these are state-run colleges. They would receive money from the federal government, and from states, and from other sources that are not tuition paid.
So we're talking about public colleges, right?
Yeah.
So this is my frustration in the entire debate, is because I asked you for a specific plan, and when I said, most of these plans are saying something like a 4-year public college gets this. So all those points that I made along the way about now you're picking winners and losers in terms of innovation between the market, that's what we just did.
I'm confused by your. I've always my whole case about the benefits
what you've been using against me this entire debate, where you've been saying, well, why should students have to pick price specifically? You just did that by saying that private colleges or any other sort of like 2-year community college, whatever, will not receive this funding. Only the 4-year public universities will. That is going to incentivize students to pick that over the things I just listed.
America has free public high school. We also have schools you pay for. So if all high schools had tuition, and I said we should move over to free high school, I think you would see that high schools are not incentivized to just get money from the students, because
the system that you just said is analogous in the 4-year, which is essentially be high school. Are we saying that public high schools in the United States are more academically rigorous than private schools? Just as a gut check.
I think grades are higher at private high schools.
Well, we weren't talking about grades, because the thing you've been time is that
It's complicated because one, private high schools are incentivized to compete with the free price of public high schools. So already this benefit I talk about in a pro world exists. So it's hard for me to weigh this when it's already happening. Secondly, there's plenty, where I come from, the only people who go to private schools are incredibly religious, because the public schools are really good. So I don't know if where private schools are better and where they're worse.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. But the problem we're having is that if there is a more innovative version of that private school, and we can leave this to college, because there's all sorts of problems with I talked about how high school can work as a babysitting program, whatever, right? If we're just talking about college though, if a private university crops up and it has a better system at breaking that human capital versus signaling, because we're only funding the 4-year public model, we're not rewarding them anymore.
We don't see that though. We actually see the opposite.
Now we are saying
private colleges are the number one driver.
Private colleges now versus your system is going to be different though. Now versus your system is going to be different. So I'm just going to finish that point. Let me finish that point real quick. What I was saying though is if a 4-year private university sprouts up and it does manage to actually let's say 80% human capital, 20% signaling, the problem is our program that we've established is instead giving those funds to the 4-year public school, where the signaling issue still exists. So this is why the plan part is really important, and why we would need to commit to something
this is the unicorn argument. We might come across a private college that solves education and that public free college education would prevent the invention of the ultimate form of college, because it gets rid of the incentive. That's not true.
It's obviously picking winners. If we are defining that, it's obviously picking winners and losers.
Private colleges are the number one source of grade inflation, that they in fact are responsible for more grade inflation than public colleges. This we'll just wait until the best private college comes through the free market. That's not happening. It's driving all of our college education system into the ground and eliminating the human capital benefits we would otherwise get from focusing on economic rigor and not just collecting tuition.
The problem where we started with this is I was asking you how like providing the free college does encourage them to be more academically rigorous. So it's the real issue though is that you didn't provide the solution to that. When I asked if it was
Yes, I did.
nationalizing
They're
the
less
colleges, you
incentivized to
instead said that no, we're just giving this to like the four-year public ones.
No, I think they're less incentivized to just get collect as much tuition as possible and make it as easy to graduate as possible, and they're more incentivized to focus on graduating people with high benefits that attract higher wages.
And again, I don't
Can I
know.
ask
I don't
a
know from the
question about the
college's
graduation
perspective
problem?
why they would do that differently in the free college system
So-
as opposed to the federal loan system
Why
right
are
now.
people who are 3 times more likely to graduate? Why is that a bad thing?
I mean, I already talked about the fact that we might be educating people for jobs that aren't available, right? Which would obviously be an inefficiency.
But you think
This
it's
is like
better
the
for them to drop
underemployment
out
matter,
and
right?
finish college because they didn't go to the right college?
No, they shouldn't enroll in the first place, right? That's like, yeah, dropping out is bad. I would agree with that. But if
So
there's clearly
wait,
not jobs
you
available
think
for
people
them, we
should
shouldn't
enroll in the
subsidize
first place?
it. Like, we shouldn't subsidize something like history or like a lot of these lower paying jobs or the jobs that don't like there's nothing wrong with history per se,
Colleges
but it
love
obviously doesn't pay back, right?
Colleges
2-minute
love
warning.
getting people choose their own adventure degrees. Colleges love pushing communications degrees. We had something enterprise leadership, which might some of these degrees it might be the first college degree that earns less than a private degree or than no degree, and it's just because they want to get people graduated. They want to collect 4 years of tuition from them. They have no incentive to actually produce rigorous workers, and that's what you see as tuition goes up. Coursework goes down. That's a relationship. How do you explain that
Why wouldn't the
relationship?
degree mill problem be exacerbated by the free college system?
Well, because we see with tuition going up, coursework goes down. We see the
Why
relationship.
wouldn't colleges charge more in tuition because they know the government will pay for it?
It's free college. I'm arguing for free college. You
Well,
can't just say that
how do you
free
do that?
college wouldn't mean free college, right? That would be
Well,
silly.
how do you do that in a way like who pays for it at the end of the day?
Yeah, I already said.
How do you determine the
instead of
price? How
taxing
do you
people-
determine what you charge the
instead of-
federal
yeah,
government?
I said that. I said, hey, I'm not violating thermodynamics here. Instead of charging people before they get the human capital development, you charge them after through taxation, or you charge their parents through taxation. That, in fact, it is much better, instead of gatekeeping college, to let people go to colleges that best fit them and then to tax to fund it afterwards. And that's why the evidence showed that a program like that would pay for itself 11 times over within 10 years if it's community college and 18 times over if it's for 4-year degrees.
Yeah, I don't see how the colleges wouldn't suddenly decide that just like any small thing that they're providing suddenly costs 10 times more than it does. If they can just charge whatever they want to the federal government, what's controlling that?
They wouldn't get that. They wouldn't get that funding. This is like the same as like high schools. I mean, this is like
Well, now we're just like nationalizing it, right?
I want you to explain the relationship. Why is it that as tuition goes up, coursework and studying goes down?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just granting you that based on the fact that like even though my empirics
You don't
are
believe
different,
it?
like yeah, I not necessarily, no.
So you don't think that?
Time. That is time. We will now move into our final closing statements, followed by our judge votes. But first, our last preparation break of 1 minute. Our last 1 minute preparation break begins now. And our last preparation break is brought to you by ChatGPT. Are you tired of hearing the same old spiel about college being the only path to success? Well, buckle up, because I've got news that's going to flip the script on that narrative. Introducing ChatGPT, your passport to a world of knowledge without ever stepping foot in a lecture hall. With ChatGPT, there's no need to spend years buried under textbooks or drowning in student loans. Say goodbye to late-night cram sessions and hello to instant access to information at your fingertips. Embrace the future of learning with ChatGPT, because when it comes to education, the only limit is your imagination. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Consider checking important information. Personal information, including identifiers such as your name, contact details, IP address, and other device identifiers. Commercial information such as your transaction history, network activity information such as content, how you interact with their services, geolocation data, your account login credentials, and payment card information may be disclosed to our affiliates, vendors, and service providers to process in accordance with our instructors, to law enforcement, other third parties for legal reasons described above, to parties involved in transactions, to corporate administrators of enterprise or team accounts, and to other users and third parties you choose to share it with. Read our terms and privacy policy for more. And that concludes our 1 minute prep time. Final closing statements. First up is a 3-minute closing statement from Thick Boy on the pro side of the topic, college education to be made free. Thick Boy, when you're ready, you can start.
Sorry. I think there's a clear case that we do not receive utility from charging high tuitions, that it is in fact not efficient to charge people before they enter college rather than charge them afterwards. It creates all sorts of bad incentives that we have seen wreak havoc on our education system and our college graduation rate that have made people like Brian Kaplan able to credibly say that college is not valuable. In reality, free college would alleviate basically all of these concerns. The first is increasing low-income attendance. I already said that low-income people, of course, are less likely to be meritocratically trained as rich people, but they're even less likely to be rich. So at that point, you already see people more likely to attend college, and that's what you see empirically. When you study this, you see offering free tuition, not just means testing, but free tuition improves their expectations, allows them to plan for the future, and better create a path to education, whether that be to going to community college, not going to college at all, or getting a four-year degree somewhere, or even beyond that. All of these are improved by the signal that college is free. They will not have to worry about jumping through all sorts of hoops and expectations and uncertainty because college is free, whether that be through free tuition or reducing or getting rid of housing costs, whatever. If you agree on the principle that more free college is gooder, like that is a reason to vote pro, and you see more people graduate. He says, oh, we don't need more graduates. Yes, we do. Instead of having, because it's not that there are more people going to college. It's more people go to college and actually leave with a degree, completing education. The human capital benefit goes up, and they get the signaling benefit. They're able to compete on the market. Obviously, the economy is growing, and we're going to need more jobs that allow people to be better trained, adapt to technology, and all these other things. Human capital is important. College is important. So on the second argument, which is increasing rigor, he was not able to actually address the issue here. He merely said, I only have one example. Well, that's better than what he has, which is nothing. Just look at national rigor has gone down. College human capital doesn't exist. Well, if you actually isolate for the factors, you see that increased coursework or decreased coursework reduces income and makes workers less productive. That is super important because when you make tuition free, you reduce the incentive to pump out fake degrees, to suck money from them all 4 years. And that's empirically what we see. Whereas tuition goes up, college coursework goes down, and the human capital element gets eliminated by the signaling effect. Then finally, on sorting, he never justifies why people should choose colleges based on what they can afford and not where they can better attend. I already show if when you attend the right college, you're 80% more likely to graduate. When you can make these decisions without worrying about cost, you are less likely to go to a college that's either too good or too bad. Colleges are more efficient because people build better connections with peers who are at their level, and people are able to graduate and adopt those skills into the future, into the actual environment. For all these reasons, I really encourage you to vote pro.
All right. Now move over to Stink for his final closing statement on the con side of the topic. College education should be made free. When you're ready, you can start.
Yeah, I guess just to start, one of the big things that we talked about consistently throughout was the academic rigor portion. I don't see how you made the case that allowing free college would also cause these colleges to increase their academic rigor. I think the federal loan analogy that I brought up was a good one, and if we are saying that increasing access via federal loans didn't do anything about the rigor, then I don't see how making it free would do so either. Eventually, I mean, I asked you earlier, like, what is your plan? Is it going to be something like only 4-year public is free? Eventually, we did get to that after we really dove deep into it. I think there's a big problem at that, both in from a political angle and then also from an actual planning angle, because depending on how you do it, you're either creating winners and losers in the market, which is simply by isolating it to a specific degree program. And then if you do it in the way that I think you've been kind of alluding to this whole time, which is you make it free no matter what, you can go to a college, they'll pay for it. In that situation, you run into all the issues I brought up with the fact that the signaling model does indicate that a college degree is not necessarily productive on a national level. I mentioned the fact that personal income gains are maybe like 8 to 12% per year of additional education, whereas national income gains are something like 1.5 to 3%. The fact that doesn't match up means that we should really question what we're doing in terms of putting more money into a system like that. There's probably better alternatives, and if you're saying that the academic rigor is part of it, then yeah, true. Let's fix that before we put more money into it. Yeah, we talked about, we did go back and forth on the signaling, but I think you basically admitted when I asked you, would you rather have the 4 years of education without the degree or the degree without the education? You picked the degree. That says a lot, right? Like the more that signaling is true, the worse it's going to be in terms of returns on any investment we put into more college. Yeah, and I'll see the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you guys both to this wonderful, rousing debate. We will now have our votes. Judges, please look in the group DM. I'm sending a straw poll there where you will cast your vote. Please cast your vote first, and then you can write your paragraph, or if you want to do the verbal, you can do that. But vote first, and then you can do all that second, just so that we can get the show on the road there. Also, if any of you do have to leave very quickly, it's okay if you want to delay writing your paragraph. Just make sure that you do get it written at some point in time. But there's the straw poll link. Go ahead and take a second to decide who you think won the debate. As a reminder, Thick Boy was on the pro, arguing for free college, and Stink was on the con, arguing against free college. For the audience, who will be one of our 9 votes, I have another link for you guys in the side chat. If you were not here for the vast majority of the debate, please do not partake in the vote. Also a reminder, you are not voting as a popularity contest, you are voting on who you think won the debate. And we will announce the winner in about a minute.
Big boy, that was a lot of fun. It was a privilege to debate you, so
Yeah, that was a lot
thank you for the opportunity. And Duke, thank you for the countless hours you put into this entire tournament. It was a blast.
Absolutely.
For this was all. Everyone buy him a coffee.
True. Our final sponsor is me. Buy me a coffee. Check the side chat. Click the link. Amazing. One of our judges says they don't know how to turn off ad block to vote. Just DM me your vote then. I didn't know that was an issue. Interesting. If anyone else is having that issue, you can just DM me your vote. I will add it to the count. Okay, I've got, I think, 6 of 8 judges who have voted. Reminder to the judges, it's okay if you want to write up your thoughts second and vote first. In fact, please do so. All right. You get it in. I know TJump didn't click. I know that Ziana sent me theirs. That would put it at 7, which means we're still missing 1 judge who did not vote. If I can get some Message confirmations. Urk voted. I know Brick did. Dingo, did you vote? The Boy, did you vote? Stardust voted. Wonderful. Rage Pope, did you vote? Boy voted. Okay, Dingo, I think, is the last person. Dingo, Dingo, Dingo. Everyone yell at Dingo. Dingo. Everyone ping Dingo. Call him a loser till he votes.
I hope he's okay.
Hope so too. Well, obviously he's just wanting more time for my second sponsor advertisement for myself, which is if you enjoyed all these debates that I put on for the last 3 months, you can financially support me. Fortunately, we have our failsafe judge in case Dingo is totally dead, which is Brick. So, if Dingo does not answer in 30 seconds, I will declare the winner anyway with the failsafe judge. So 30 more seconds, and we will have a winner announced regardless. Okay, time is up. I do not know where Dingo is. But fortunately, we have our failsafe, and we also have one judge who decided to abstain. I'm going to name and shame them because that's just like immature and rude. I don't know what your problem is. And that person's TJump. If you're subscribed to TJump, you should consider unsubscribing. It's genuinely childish behavior. All right, with that out of the way, we remove his vote, and we have our failsafe vote of Brick that fills in. And we can now announce our winner on a 7-judge panel. So on our 7-judge panel, which is an audience vote, plus 6 votes from Ziana, Brick, Boy, Stardust, Rage Pope, Urk, we have a winner. Our winner of our DGG Debate Championship.
All right, that scrub is muted. What a fucking joke. Yeah, I just muted him because he's a scrub.